The doll I'm going to use is the beautiful Jasmine doll, and I just love her turquoise outfit, so that's what I decided to use because I haven't worked with turquoise yet. So this is the beautiful turquoise yarn that I'm going to be using by Pound of Love. So now I just want to show you a close-up of the doll and her hat. See how pretty the hat looks. And then also her hair on the back looks beautiful. So here is the parasol, and I took the copper wire and put it right through the hat where the ribbon went down and tied under the doll's face, and then the rest of the copper wire hooked around her hand, and then she's able to hold the parasol nicely. And you can position the parasol how you like, or however you find works best. And I still have my 8-piece goodie scrunchies, and I have 2 of them because I had used these for my child leg warmers, and they worked great for keeping them up on the child's leg, and my niece loved them. But I still have these beautiful colors, and one of them is the turquoise, which is what I'm going to use in this project. If you're only going to make one, then you only need one of these. Unless you think you would like to make the child leg warmers, then getting a couple of these would be good. And what I like about these, they fit perfectly on the doll's waist. So you'll be able to attach the dress that goes over the toilet paper, and then the top part to attach the top of the dress. But if you'd rather make a top like hers, I'll show you how you can make one similar to that, but I'm going to make it so it's attached. You could also use the doll or the octopus as a cake topper, and what you would do is you could cut a circle out of cardboard, or you can use a lid. I'm using a lid. You could set the doll right on top, and you would want to make it a little bit bigger size so that the dress, whatever size dress that you have, won't be in the cake frosting. And once you have the size that you want, either a cutout cardboard circle or a lid, you just wrap it in aluminum foil. So you just kind of wrap it in aluminum foil, and then you would set it on top of the cake with the doll. And another thing you can do, if you want the octopus, is the same thing. You just get an inexpensive Tupperware container, and then you would also wrap that in aluminum foil till it's completely covered. And then once it's completely covered nicely, then you could put your octopus on there for the cake. And you can also put little baby socks on the octopus if you're doing a baby shower. It would make a nice baby shower gift. For this project, you're going to need your J or 6mm crochet hook, and also a tapestry needle and a pair of scissors. And of course, the other star of the video is the toilet paper, and this I'm using is Scott toilet paper tissue. And as you can see, she fits perfectly into it. I don't want the doll to be a permanent part of the project, so I want her to be able to, that you could still play with her, have the children play with her if you wanted to take her out and use her in the future. The yarn that I used is Lion Brand Yarns Pound of Love, and this color is turquoise. The other color yarn that I'm using is the Pound of Love, and this one is Antique White. And it's just a beautiful off-white beige-like color. And I'm also using these beautiful flowers, and they have this cute fake diamond in the center, and it's by His and Hers. See if I can bring that in. And it was only, I actually got 50% off, so it's not very expensive. And I also have a white one too, but you can do all blue or all white, or alternate them also. I'm also using this decorative trim. It's called decorative trim, and this size is 2/5 of an inch. And you're also just going to need a sewing needle, regular sewing needle, and some white thread. Now, I also used the copper wire by Cousin, and it's the 20 gauge caliber for the parasol. The ribbon that I used is the Robert Stanley collection, 3/8 of an inch, and it's a real pretty glittery blue ribbon. The color that they say it is floral. And the first thing I'm going to do is just use my off-white color, and my tapestry needle has the pointier end on it. Makes it easier with the pointier end rather than more of a blunt end, because the pointier end will go through the fabric much easier. On the scrunchie, you can see that it has a seam running along it. So you're going to take and hold it so that the seam is off towards the right, and then on the left side is the elastic. So you can feel the elastic on the inside of the scrunchie. I'm holding that off to the left, and I'm going to hold the scrunchie like this. So the seam is off to the right, and then the elastic is sitting on the inner part of the scrunchie. And then I'm going to take my tapestry needle with the color yarn that I'm using, and I'm going to work along the seam side, but I'm going to come up from the bottom. So I'm going to come up through the bottom. And make sure you leave enough yarn end for burying into your work and tying your knot. And you're going to hold the yarn over towards the side at an angle like this. So you can see how I'm holding the yarn over at an angle. Then you're going to take your tapestry needle and you're going to go back down right above where you came up, right down, not all the way. You're going to take about a centimeter. So you're going to come back up about a centimeter and just bring your tapestry needle through. You can see how easy it works with the sharper end tapestry needle for doing your embroidery stitch. And you can see how the inside part of the yarn is coming up through a loop, which is what you want, and that's your first stitch. Then you take your yarn, hold it off to the side again, because we're going to do another stitch. Make sure that when you go with your tapestry needle that you don't go back inside that loop that you created. So you don't want to go inside the loop that you created, because it's just going to undo the stitch that you made. So you're going to go right outside the loop, just outside the loop with your tapestry needle, back in, and you're going to take another bite, about another centimeter bite. And we're just going to keep making embroidery stitches all the way around the bottom of the scrunchie. So I'm going to do one more with you so you can see how I'm doing this. And you can see how I'm just making my stitches, my embroidery stitches as I go. You can see how I'm holding my hand, and then just take your tapestry needle and you just keep doing about a centimeter sized embroidery stitch. And now I have 3 stitches. So go ahead and keep making these embroidery stitches all the way around back to the beginning, and then come back. So here you can see how my embroidery stitches look, and they go all the way around. And I ended up with 25 embroidery stitches, but don't worry, you know, if you have one more or one less, it won't matter. And then here you could see where I ended the stitch and just brought my loose yarn end to the other side and tied a knot to the beginning loose yarn end. Now you're going to get some more of the same colored yarn that you were using, and you're going to go right on the just to the inside of the elastic. So the elastic is off to the left. You can feel it to the left. You're going to take your tapestry needle and come up from the bottom just like you did on the other side, and you're going to do the same thing along the top. So again, you want to leave enough of a loose yarn end for tying your knot. Put the yarn off to the side at an angle and hold your yarn like that. And then just like you did along the bottom, you're going to take your tapestry needle and take about a centimeter, about the same sized embroidery stitch, and you're just going to do the same thing all the way along the top. So you're going to put your stitches along the top of the scrunchie. So go ahead and finish making your embroidery stitches. Let me just show you this one. All the way around, just like you did along the bottom. This time you're going to do it along the top and then come back. Okay, and so this is how my work looks so far. And on the top one, I ended up with only 25 embroidery stitches. But like I said, that doesn't matter as long as you have the embroidery stitches on there. And I'm going to show you how we just need those to latch on with our crochet stitches. So as long as you have the lines along the bottom and along the top, and that's how it should look. Now you're going to take your crochet hook and just put it into that first embroidery stitch, and the back side is where you tied your knot. So you're just going to take your crochet hook and go through that first embroidery stitch, and then take your yarn and loop it or hook it and bring it through. Make sure you leave enough loose yarn end to tie your knot, and then just take and hook your yarn to turn it upside down, and then bring it through that loop for chain 1, and then turn your work over and then just tie a knot. And let's see if I can get my... Now you're going to go ahead and do a single crochet into the same stitch. So go into the same stitch and bring up a loop. Make sure you don't get your loose yarn ends. And then you have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and go through both for a single crochet. And then in the next embroidery stitch, go ahead and do a single crochet. And then here, let me just show you with the embroidery stitch. I'll show you on a different embroidery stitch. So here you have 1 loop, and then you have your second loop. So you want to make sure you go under both loops when you do your stitches. So now I'm going to go into the next stitch over, and you can see how I went under both loops. And then I'm going to bring up a loop and do 1 single crochet, and then go in the same stitch and do 2 single crochets. So you're going to do 2 single crochet into every embroidery stitch all the way around. I'm going to do one more with you. So here's my next embroidery stitch. I'm going to go under both loops, do 2 single crochet, and I'm going to do that all the way around back to the beginning. So I ended up with 51 single crochet stitches all the way around, and if you want to end up with the same number of stitches as me, instead of 2 single crochets, maybe you can do 1 single crochet spaced evenly to get the same number of stitches, but it shouldn't matter as long as it's close to the number that I have, because when we start working, as long as it fits over the toilet paper roll, it should be fine. When you've reached the beginning stitch, we can go ahead and do a slip stitch. So you take your crochet hook and go into that first stitch under both loops. Go ahead and bring up, actually you're going to yarn over and then bring that yarn through both loops on your hook for a slip stitch. And now you're going to go ahead and chain 1, and we're going to go into the next stitch over for a single crochet. So that's 2, next stitch, single crochet, and that's 3. And now we're going to do a decrease stitch. So you're going to take your crochet hook and go into the next hook, bring up a loop, 2 loops on the hook, go into the next stitch, bring up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through all 3 for a decrease stitch. And we're going to do that all the way around. Repeat that pattern. So I'm going to do one more set with you. 1 single crochet in the first stitch, 1 single crochet in the second stitch, 1 single crochet in the third stitch, and then you're going to do a decrease stitch. So you're going to take your crochet hook and go into the next stitch and bring up a loop, go into the next stitch and bring up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through all 3 for a decrease stitch. And you're going to repeat that pattern all the way around back to the beginning. Okay, so I ended with the decrease stitch. Now I'm going to go ahead and do a slip stitch into that first stitch. So I have 42 stitches on mine, and like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, just as long as you're close to the number of stitches that I have. And now I've shown you how to increase your stitches as well as how to decrease. And now we're going to move up to the next row. So you're going to go ahead and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And that's going to count as your first double crochet. And we're going to do 1 double crochet into every stitch around. So go ahead and yarn over, go into the next stitch, bring up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through 2, yarn over and go through 2. And we're going to do 1 double crochet into every stitch around. So I'm going to do one more with you, yarn over, go into the next stitch, bring up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through 2, yarn over and go through 2. So go ahead and finish doing 1 double crochet into every stitch all the way around back to the beginning. Now you can see how the center is going to go around the whole of the toilet paper, and then how the skirt is going to fall along the sides of the toilet paper. So now you're just going to keep, I'm back at the beginning, so I'm going to go ahead and do my slip stitch, go into that top stitch of the first double crochet that you did. So go into that top stitch of the first double crochet, then you're going to yarn over and bring the yarn through both loops on your hook for a slip stitch, and then you joined that row or that round. And you're just going to keep doing 1 single crochet into every stitch, 1 double crochet into every stitch all the way around. So to start each round, you're going to do a chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and that's going to count as your first double crochet. And then you're going to take and do a double crochet into the next stitch, and then complete 1 double crochet into every stitch all the way around. And you're going to keep doing these rounds of 1 double crochet into every stitch until the skirt has reached the bottom of the toilet paper. And only the bottom of the toilet paper. Don't go out any further because we're going to do an outer skirt as well. Then you're just going to finish off, and you're just going to yarn over and pull enough yarn through to bury your loose yarn end. I finished a total of 9 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You want the inner part of the dress to reach from the doll's waist to the bottom of the toilet paper. So now you're going to take your work and make sure that the right side is facing you. And you're going to take your crochet hook and you're going to go into one of the stitches on that first row. So here I'll just show you. Here's where you did your embroidery stitch onto the scrunchie. So you're going to go in between your embroidery stitches on the scrunchie and put your crochet hook through that first row. And then just take and hook the color that you want for the outside part of the dress. And I'm using this pretty turquoise. And you're just going to do a chain 1, just yarn over and pull the yarn through for a chain, and then go ahead and tie your knot. And then we can bury our loose yarn end as we work, but we're going to do 1 more stitch into that same space. We're going to do a single crochet, so you're just going to go into that space, the same space that you did the chain, bring up a loop, then you have 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through both for a single crochet. And then you're going to go into the next stitch over, so right into that next space behind that loose yarn end, bring up a loop, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through both for a single crochet. I'm going to do 1 more single crochet in that same space, and we're going to continue to do 2 single crochet into every space around until you get back to the beginning. So I'll do 1 more with you. Just do 2 single crochet into this space, and we're going to do that all the way around back to the beginning. And this is how it's looking. All right, so go ahead and do that and then come back and I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so after you finish doing your single crochets all the way around, we're going to do a slip stitch into the very first stitch that we did. Mine ended up with 54 stitches all the way around, but like I said, you don't have to have the exact same number in yours. Now, for this next row, the first thing we're going to do is do a chain 3. 1, 2, 3. That's going to count as your first double crochet. And now you're going to skip 2 stitches and then work 2 double crochets. So yarn over, we're going to skip 2 stitches and work 2 double crochets into the same stitch. And then you're going to skip 2 stitches and work 1 double crochet. And you're going to keep alternating this pattern of 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, all the way around back to the beginning. I'm going to do a few more with you. So I'm going to skip 2 stitches and work 2 double crochet. And you're going to want to repeat this pattern all the way around of 2 double crochet, 1 double crochet, skipping 2 stitches. So I'm skipping 2 stitches, doing 1 double crochet, skip 2 stitches, do 2. So go ahead, repeat this pattern all the way around back to the beginning, and then come back. Now, once you're back to the beginning, you're going to want to do a slip stitch into that first double crochet the top stitch of your first double crochet that you did. Just yarn over and bring the yarn through both stitches. And then you're going to go ahead and slip stitch into the next stitch. So go into the next stitch, yarn over and bring the yarn through both loops on your hook. And then you're going to go into the middle of those 2 double crochet that you did. So you're going to go into that space, and then you're going to bring up a loop. You have 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through both for a single crochet. And now we're going to do our first shell. So you're going to go ahead and chain 3. So that first single crochet counted as your first chain, then 2, and then 3. And now we're going to do a double crochet into that space. So 2 double crochet, and then you're going to chain 1. And then you're going to do 2 more double crochet in the same space. So this is what the shell is going to look like for this row, this round, I should say. Since we're working in rounds now, I'm just going to call them rounds. So you're going to have 2 double crochet, a chain 1, and 2 double crochet for the shells for this round. Now, everywhere you have a single double crochet on the previous row, you're going to do 1 double crochet into that stitch. And then in the next V space, so here you have that V space, the space between your 2 double crochet, you're going to work another shell. So I'm going to go into that space, do a double crochet, do 2 double crochet in that space, then I'm going to chain 1 and do 2 more double crochet in the same space. And this is the pattern that you're going to work all the way around. So I'm going to do 1 more double crochet in the stitch above the previous row's double crochet. And this is what my round is looking like. So you have your shell here, single double crochet, shell, single double crochet. You're going to repeat that pattern all the way around back to the beginning. Okay, so now once you're back to the beginning, you can go ahead and I actually have 1 more single double crochet on the previous row, so I'm going to do 1 more double crochet in that stitch. And then I can go ahead and do a slip stitch to the beginning. So I'm going to go to the top stitch of that first double crochet. And I'm going to go ahead and do a slip stitch, bring the yarn through both loops on the hook. And now I'm going to go ahead and finish off because I'm going to show you how to add beads to the project. So go ahead and yarn over and bring enough yarn through for burying into your work. A little bit of fuzz there. So now you're going to want to make sure that your tapestry needle that you're using will fit through whatever bead that you've chosen. And in my case, I've chosen these beautiful blue beads here. And it's called Beater's Paradise Craft Item, check glass e-beads. So I just got a bunch of these beads, and these beads have a nice hole through them that my tapestry needle will fit nicely through. And it's a different tapestry needle than I do use for regular sewing or sewing any loose yarn ends in. I like this one because I don't need to use my yarn threader every time. For this one, to get the yarn through, I definitely need to use my yarn threader or needle threader. So I'm going to take and put the hook through the eye of the tapestry needle, and then I'm going to take my yarn that I'm using and I'm going to hook it, and I'm going to bring it through the eye of the tapestry needle. And to get the yarn to go through, I just move it up and down and it goes through nicely. very easily. Now you don't want to cut the yarn because you want it still attached to your ball of yarn. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take our beads and you're just going to put the beads onto the yarn. And we're going to have the beads already on the yarn as we're working, and you will just move the beads forward when you're ready to place them. Now you want to make sure that your beads are in the order that you're going to be placing them into your crochet work. So I have two different types of beads here, so I'm going to alternate the beads as I place them onto my needle. And then you also want to make sure you have the number of beads that you're going to be using too, because once you start crocheting, you're not going to be able to get the beads on there. So this is a quick and easy way that I found that I'm going to place my beads on. I'm just kind of hooking them onto the tapestry needle, just like this, until I have all the beads that I want in place onto the yarn. Now I have all of the beads in place on my yarn for working, so I'm just going to kind of push them down, further down on the yarn to bring up as I need them as I'm crocheting. And I used the whole jar that I had of the blue. So now you want to take and find the right side of the skirt. So that is the side that you have your embroidery stitches showing. And on the inside you can see what it looks like on the wrong side. So with the right side facing you, you're going to want to flip up the turquoise part or whatever part yarn color that you're using for the outer skirt, and you're going to want to work from this direction. So you're going to go into one of the shells, the chain one space of one of the shells. So remember, we had 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets. So you're going to take your crochet hook and go into the chain 1 space. And then you're going to take and hook your yarn and bring it through that chain 1 space. And then you're going to yarn over and bring it through the loop for chain 1. And then you're going to turn your work over and tie your knot. And now you're going to go ahead and do a chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. And that's going to count as your first double crochet in that chain 1 space. We're going to do one more double crochet in the same chain 1 space. And now you're going to do a chain 1. And now you're going to take one of your beads and bring it forward all the way up to your crochet hook. And then you're going to do another chain 1. And then 2 more double crochet. And then you can see, I'm just going to show you real quick, when you lay the skirt down, you can see how the beautiful bead will be showing on the right side. So I'm going to do one more with you. So we're going to repeat this pattern all the way around. And remember, for the previous rows single double crochets, you're just going to do 1 double crochet above those. And then in the next chain 1 space, oh, here I have another single double crochet. So I'm going to go ahead and do one more there. And then here in the first chain one space of the next shell, I'm going to do a double crochet in that chain one space and another double crochet. And now I'm going to do a chain one, and then I'm going to bring one of the beads forward up to the crochet hook, do a chain one, and then two more double crochet. And then you can see how when you lay the skirt down, we're going to bury the loose yarn ends, but when the skirt lays on top, you can see how you have your beads showing on the right side. So go ahead and finish this pattern all the way around, back to the beginning, and then come back. And then once you return to the beginning, you can go ahead and do a slip stitch into that top stitch of the first double crochet. And then you go ahead and do a slip stitch into the next stitch over. And then you're going to slip stitch into that first chain one space. And then you can go ahead and chain three. 1, 2, 3. And now we are going to change the shell for this round. This time you're going to do 3 double crochet. So that's 1, 2, 3. And then you're going to do a chain 1. And then you're going to take and place a bead. And then you're going to do another chain 1. And then you're going to do 3 more double crochet into the same chain 1 space. And then in the next stitch over, for some reason I have 2 single double crochets, so I'm going to make that into 1. I'm going to do a double crochet into the stitch between them just to make 1 double crochet, because that's how it should be. If you have a single double crochet on the previous row, you can just do a single double crochet there. And then we're just going to repeat that pattern into the next chain 1 space. And I'm going to try to keep the 3 double crochet on the one side of my previous row's bead. And then I'm going to chain 1 and place my bead. And then I'm going to do another chain 1. And then I'm going to do 3 more double crochet. And I'm going to repeat that pattern all the way around. I'm just going to show you what it looks like. So then when you fold your dress down, let me fix this one. When you fold the skirt down, you're going to see the beautiful beadwork on the dress. So go ahead and repeat the pattern all the way around back to the beginning and then come back. Okay, so once you reach the beginning, you can go ahead and do your slip stitch. And then you can see how the beads look. They look really pretty along the dress. And now we're going to do our next round. So you're going to go ahead and do a slip stitch in each of the stitches until you get to that chain 1 space. And then you're going to slip stitch into the chain 1 space and then chain 3. And you're going to do the same shell that you did on the previous row. We're going to do 3 double crochet. So there's 1, here's 2, and 3. Now you're going to do a chain 1, and then you're going to place your bead. And you don't have to place the beads if you don't want the beads. You can just keep chaining without the bead. But I'm going to do one more chain on the other side of the bead, and then I'm going to do 3 more double crochet into the same chain 1 space. And you can see how I do this shell, the 3 double crochet on either side of the previous row's bead, and that just helps to show it a little bit more on the other side of the dress. So this is what the shell is going to look like on this round. Now I'm going to do my double crochet into the single double crochet on the previous row, and then I'm going to repeat this pattern all the way around back to the beginning. And you can go ahead and do your slip stitch, and then I'll show you what type of shell will be on the next round. So I've already joined by a slip stitch, and I slip stitched to my first shell. And you can see on my previous rows how I have the initial V that I created, and then the shell above it. The shell above it has, let me see if I can show you better. This is the shell above it that has the 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet. And then you have the shell above that, which also has the 2 double crochet, chain 2 with the bead and 2 double crochet. And then the next round we have 3 double crochet, chain 2 with a bead and 3 double crochet. And the next round has 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. So now for this round we're going to make the shell a little different. This time you're going to do, first you're going to do your chain 3 like you regularly do. That's going to count as your first double crochet. And now you're going to do a total of 4 double crochet on the right side of the bead. So that's 2, 3, and 4. So now you have 4 double crochet. You're going to chain 1, and then you're going to bring a bead over same way, and then chain 1, and then 4 more double crochet on the other left side of the bead. And that's what your shell is going to look like on this round. You're going to have 4 double crochet, chain 2 with the bead, 4 double crochet, and then you're going to do a chain, 1 double crochet in the previous row's double crochet, and you're going to repeat this pattern all the way around back to the beginning. Okay, so now we're going to get ready for our next round, and I've already slip stitched to my next shell on the next round, and I'm going to do 4 double crochet just like I did on the previous round. And then I'm going to do a chain 1, and then I'm going to take 1 bead, and then chain 1 again, and then do 4 more double crochet on the other side of the previous row's bead. And this is what the shell is going to look like again. So the same as the previous row, the 4 double crochet, chain 2 with a bead, 4 double crochet. Same thing on this round, 4 double crochet, chain 2 with a bead, and 4 more double crochet. And then you're going to do a double crochet into the previous row's single double crochet, and you're going to repeat that pattern all the way around back to the beginning. Okay, so now I've slip stitched to my next shell. Turn my work back around, and I did my chain 3, and this is going to be our last round, and I'm going to do, see, I did 4 and then 4, so now I'm going to do 5 double crochet into the previous row's shell. Okay, so I did 5 double crochet. Now I'm going to chain 1 and bring up a bead, chain 1 again, and then do 5 more double crochet. And that's what your shell is going to look like. 5 double crochet, chain 2 with a bead, and 5 double crochet for the shells on this round. And again, for the single double crochet on the previous row, I'm just going to do 1 single double crochet in that stitch. And then I'm going to repeat that pattern all the way around back to the beginning. Okay, so we're going to actually do some more rounds of shells because we want the dress to reach from the doll's waist to the bottom of the toilet paper roll. So I'm going to show you, go ahead and slip stitch to the next chain 2 space of the previous row's shell, and then you're going to do another round of a 5 double crochet shell. So I did I chained 3 for the first double crochet, so I'm going to do 5 total, and I want to stay on the side of the bead. We're actually going to do a couple more rounds for the bottom of the dress because we want the dress to reach from the doll's waist all the way to the bottom of the toilet paper roll. So go ahead and slip stitch into your next shell from the previous row, and then go ahead and do your chain 3, and then we're going to repeat the 5 double crochet on the one side of the bead. And then you're going to go ahead and chain one, and then bring up a bead, and then chain one again, and then do 5 more double crochet, and then you're going to do your double crochet and the single double crochet on the previous row. And then you're going to repeat that pattern all the way around back to the beginning. So you would keep going to the length that you want for the bottom outer skirt, but for me, I'm going to do, this will be our last round, and this time we're going to do one with a 6 double crochet shell. So here, and it's actually going to be a 12, but 6 on each side of the bead. I'm going to do my chain 3 first, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to do 6 double crochet on the side of the bead. Make sure I get on the side of the bead. And then I'm going to chain 1 and bring up a bead. Then I'm going to chain 1 again, and then I'm going to do 6 more double crochet on the other side of the bead. And then you have your shell, and I'm going to do my last double crochet in the previous, actually it's not my last double crochet, but my next double crochet in the single double crochet in the previous row. And then you're going to repeat this pattern all the way around back to the beginning, and then come back. And then once you reach the beginning, go ahead and do your slip stitch into that first double crochet that you did, the top stitch, and then just yarn over and pull the yarn through both loops on the hook, and then you're going to finish off, just yarn over and pull enough yarn to bury into your work. And then just bury your loose yarn ends and then come back. So now you can see how the dress goes right to the waist of the doll and then covers the toilet paper completely. And now we're going to work for the upper part of the dress. Now you're going to take your crochet hook and you're going to go into one of the embroidery stitches at the top of the scrunchie, and you're just going to hook your yarn, and then you're just going to go ahead and do a chain 1, and then tie a knot. Now we're going to do a single crochet into every stitch, and I'm going to bury my loose yarn end as I work. So I'm going to go into the same stitch and do a single crochet. I'm going to do 2 single crochet in the same stitch, and I'm going to do 2 single crochet into every stitch all the way around. So go ahead and do 2 single crochet into every stitch around and then come back. Alright, so I finished with 43 stitches, but don't worry if yours is off from mine, because I'm going to show you how to decrease, because now we're going to make it smaller. But the first thing we're going to do is just do a slip stitch into that first stitch that we created. So just take your crochet hook and put it into that first stitch. Try to get it into that stitch. For some reason it's a bit small. There we go. So I'm in that first stitch, and now I'm going to yarn over and just bring the yarn through both loops on your hook to create a slip stitch. Now I'm going to show you how to do a decrease round so you can make it smaller, and we're going to make it as small as we want to fit up to the top part of the dress. So now we're going to do 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and then in the next stitch we're going to do a decrease. So you're going to go into the next stitch, bring up a loop, and then you're going to go, you have 2 loops on the hook now. Now you're going to go into the next stitch, bring up a loop. So you have 3 loops on the hook. Then you're going to yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through all 3 for a decrease. And we're going to repeat that pattern all the way around back to the beginning. So this is where a yarn marker might be helpful to help keep a track of where you started. So I'm just going to get one of my scraps of yarn and use it as a yarn marker, or you can just use your a regular yarn marker. Either way. And let me just see where I am. Okay, there I am. Now you're going to repeat this pattern all the way around back to the beginning. So I'm going to do one more set with you. So in the next stitch you're going to do 1 single crochet, and then in the next stitch over you're going to do a decrease, and you're going to repeat that pattern all the way around back to the beginning and then come back. Okay, so now I'm going to move up my yarn marker, and this time I'm going to do decrease stitches all the way around. So I'm going to go into the next stitch, bring up a loop, then I'm going to go into the next stitch, bring up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through all 3 for a decrease. And I'm going to do decreases all the way around back to the yarn marker. On mine I have 1 more stitch left, so I'm just going to do a single crochet in that last stitch, and then that gives me a total of 15 stitches around, and you can finish to whatever size you need for your doll now that you know how to do the decreases. And then you're going to take and go into the next stitch over to do a slip stitch. So you just yarn over and bring the yarn through both loops on the hook for a slip stitch, and then you're going to finish off and just bring enough yarn through to bury into your work. Now for the top part of the dress, we're going to start with a magic circle. So you're just going to take your yarn and drape it across your 4 fingers and use your thumb to stabilize, and then wrap the yarn around your 2 middle fingers twice and hold it in place with your pinky and your thumb. Then take your crochet hook, I'm using my J or 6mm crochet hook, and go under those 2 loops, bring up a loop, then yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through that loop for a slip knot. Now you're going to do 6 single crochet into the magic circle. So you're going to go into the magic circle, you're going to bring up a loop, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through both for a single crochet. You're going to do 6 single crochet into the magic circle. Then take your forefinger and thumb and place it at the bottom of those 6 single crochet, and then you have the 2 loops on the other side. You're going to pull on one of them. If it doesn't close, let go and pull on the other one until it closes, and then just close it loosely. And then take that loose yarn in and pull on that. And then you're going to take and go into that first stitch Make sure you get under both loops. So I'm in that first stitch, I'm going to bring up a loop, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through both for a single crochet, and then you're going to do 1 more single crochet into the same stitch, and then you're going to do 2 single crochet into every stitch around until you've completed a total of 12 single crochet. And then come back and I'll show you what to do next. Now you're going to do a slip stitch into the next stitch over, and then you're going to finish off. You're just going to yarn over and pull enough yarn through to bury into your work. And then just turn the work over and pull on that loose yarn end to close the magic circle, and then you're going to make another one of these. Now you're just going to take your loose yarn ends. You should have 2 of your magic circles, and just take your loose yarn ends on your tapestry needle and just kind of weave them through the back of your magic circles, and then just cut the loose yarn ends and then come back. Now you're just going to get some yarn that's the same color as your magic circles, and you're going to need 1 bead, so you can just take 1 bead and take your tapestry needle that will fit your beads, and we're going to thread it with the yarn. So take your hook and just kind of thread it through the needle, and then just move up and down to get the yarn through. And now we're just going to sew the 2 magic circles together, and we're going to place the bead right in the front. So we want to make sure that the bead is going to come back through, because I'm going to try to make sure that the bead sits on its side. So I'm going to come back up. And then I'm going to come through the other side of the bead. So I'm going to come down and up on the other side of the bead. And then I'm going to go through the other side. Go right through the bead. Make sure my loose yarn ends don't get tangled. And then just pull the bead tight, and you can see how it lies flat. And then I'm going to go back through to the other side. And then I'm going to take the other side of my loose yarn end and feed that onto my other tapestry needle, because I want that to go in on the other side of the bead. And you can see how the bead lies nice and flat on the front now. So you kind of position it where you want it. And then you can finish sewing the 2 sides together. So I'm going to take my tapestry needle. First I'm just going to tie a knot. And then I'm going to finish sewing the 2 sides together. And then I'm going to come up right where my other loose yarn end is. And then tie another knot. And then I'm going to bury my loose yarn ends. Start with this loose yarn end. I'm just going to weave my tapestry needle through the back and then cut my loose yarn end. So go ahead and bury the other loose yarn end and then come back and I'll show you how to finish the top. So now this is going to be the front of the dress and the bead will go at the top of the dress. And now we're going to do the side straps. So you're going to go to the top stitch, and this stitch is about the 4th stitch over from the bead. And go ahead and hook your yarn and bring it through, and then do a chain 1, and then turn your work over and just tie a knot. And then you're going to do a single crochet in the same stitch. At the same time, I'm going to bury my loose yarn end. So I'm going to go behind that loose yarn end and bring up a loop. 2 loops on my hook. Then I'm going to yarn over and go through both for a single crochet. And then I'm going to go into the next stitch over behind the loose yarn end. Bring up a loop. Try that again. And then go into the next stitch over. Bring up a loop. And the last stitch on the side. So I did 4 single crochets along the side. And I'm going to go ahead and cut my loose yarn end. Now I'm going to do a chain 1, turn my work, and then here you see how I have a little bit of an upslope at the base of my chain 1. I'm not going to go into that stitch. I'm going to go into the next stitch over and do a single crochet. And then I'm going to finish doing single crochets in the next 2 stitches, which will be a total of 4 for this row. And then I'm going to chain 1. And then you're going to be doing 4 single crochets, 1 single crochet in every stitch across for a total of 4 single crochets. And then chain 1, and you're just going to keep doing this for the strap of the dress. So far I've done, it's my 3rd row, and I want a total of 5 rows. I'm going to chain 1 and keep working the single crochets in every stitch until I have a total of 5 rows for the side strap. After that 5th row, go ahead and finish off. So yarn over and pull enough yarn through to bury into your work. And this will be the side that you put your button on when it goes towards the back of the doll. And now we're going to do the buttonhole side. So you're going to take and make sure that you'll have 4 single crochet stitches that you'll be able to work. So I'm going to go into the bottom stitch and make sure you get under both loops. So the bottom stitch here will be 1, and then this will be 2, 3, and 4. So that's exactly the 3 stitches away from this side of the bead. Same thing from the other side, so they'll be even. And then you're going to go ahead and take your yarn, and then you want to hook your yarn and bring that through. And do your chain 1. Turn your work over and just tie a knot. We're going to bury our loose yarn in just like we did on the other side. We're going to do a single crochet into our first stitch that we did. And then we're going to go into the next stitch and do a single crochet for our second single crochet. Next stitch for our third single crochet. And then the fourth stitch. Get in there. For some reason that one's a smaller stitch. Well, let me get into that stitch. Sometimes you can take, whoop, I'm just dropping everything. Okay, so now you want to go on the other side to do the strap. So you want to make sure you have the 4 stitches to do your single crochets. So you're going to start here for 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you're going to be about 3 stitches away from the bead, which is the same as the opposite side. So you just take your crochet hook and go into that stitch, and you're going to go ahead and hook the yarn and bring it through. Just make sure you leave enough yarn for burying into your work. And then you're going to do a chain 1, and then you're just going to turn your work over and tie your knot. And now we're going to bury our loose yarn end as we work. So you're going to go into that same stitch, go behind your loose yarn end, yarn over and go through both loops for a single crochet. Then you're going to go in the next stitch over behind the loose yarn end. Do another single crochet. So you're going to do that in the next 4 for a total of 4 single crochet in 4 stitches. And then you can go ahead and cut your loose yarn end. Then you're going to chain 1 and then turn your work. And then you're going to do the rows of 1 single crochet into each of the total 4 stitches. Now we did 5 rows on the other side. So this side we're going to do a little bit different because we have to make the buttonhole. So far I've made 3 rows. So I'm just going to measure it on the doll. So we're going to do 5 rows on this side as well. Go ahead and chain 1. And this is the 4th row. And the 5th row. So this is going to be the front with the bead, and then on the back the button is going to go on this side, and I'm using this sized button on that side. And so you're going to have to make the buttonhole fit your button, so make sure that you pick a button that will fit on this side and the buttonhole will fit around it. And now I'm going to make the buttonhole, so I'm going to go ahead and chain 1 and then turn my work, and then I'm going to chain, go and do a single crochet into the next stitch, and then I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to do, actually I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to do a single crochet into the 3rd stitch, and then a single crochet into the 4th stitch. So then I formed a little buttonhole that will go around the button. Now I'm just going to reinforce that buttonhole. So I'm going to chain 1, turn my work, and then I'm going to go do a single crochet into the next stitch, and then I'm going to go right into the center of the buttonhole I created and do 2 single crochet into the center of that buttonhole, and then that'll just reinforce the buttonhole. And then in the 3rd stitch I'll do a single crochet, and then in the 4th stitch single crochet. And then you're done with your buttonhole, so you can go ahead and finish off. So just yarn over and pull enough yarn through so you can bury the loose yarn end. And now you're just going to take, I'm going to see if I could fit my tapestry needle through the buttonhole. And I can, so I'm going to use my yarn. I'm going to go ahead and thread your yarn. And if your yarn doesn't fit through your buttonhole, you can just use a regular sewing needle and thread. But go ahead and sew your button on. So again, opposite your buttonhole, you're going to sew on your button and then come back. Now you can go ahead and close your button. And you can see how it makes a pretty top, but we're going to finish making the top. But so far you have the button completed. And make sure that all your loose yarn ends have been buried. And then we're going to do the straps for the dress. Now you're just going to take your yarn and you're going to take and go from the center over 3 stitches. So here will be your 1st stitch, 2nd, 3rd, right before the strap. And go ahead and hook your yarn. And then you can go ahead and chain 1. And then turn your work over to tie your knot. And then you're going to go ahead and do a single crochet in the same stitch. And then chain 1. You want to make a chain of 8. So here you can see the chain of 8. And then you're going to take, let's put my hook back in there, and we're going to attach it. So you're going to take, make sure it doesn't twist, and then you're going to go right before, in the stitch right before the buttonhole. And then you're going to take and bring the yarn through both loops on your hook for a slip stitch. And then you're going to finish off. And then you have a strap on one side. And you're going to do the same thing on the other side. You're going to go 3 stitches over, make a chain of 8, and then right along the inner part of the button, you're going to attach that strap to that stitch. So far on the doll, I've made a crochet top with the bead in the center and the straps hanging down. And on the back you have the button. And underneath is just, I left her regular outfit on. So I'm just going to leave that on underneath as I work. I think it looks good, looks pretty. And then I'm going to leave her jewelry too that came with the doll. So her earrings and her necklace will remain.